They say a picture is worth 1,000 words. But sometimes, a single photo tells a truth you were never meant to see. I thought my wedding day was the happiest day of my life. I thought I had married the man of my dreams. But then the photos arrived, and one image changed everything. My name is Hannah, and I used to believe in fairy tales. I was the girl who had dreamed of her wedding since childhood, the flowing white dress, the sparkling lights, the man at the altar who would look at me like I was his whole world. For years, I thought I had found that man in Daniel. Daniel was charming, kind, and the kind of person who made you feel like you were the only one in the room. We met through mutual friends, and from our very first conversation, it felt like something had clicked into place. He made me laugh, he made me feel safe, and most of all, he made me feel chosen. So when he got down on one knee and asked me to be his forever, I said yes without hesitation. But forever is a long time. And as it turned out, forever had a secret. The wedding was beautiful. More than beautiful, it was perfect. A historic estate nestled in the countryside, with ivy-covered walls and golden chandeliers casting a soft, warm glow. Rows of white roses lined the aisle, their scent thick in the cool autumn air. The string quartet played softly as I walked toward Daniel, my heart racing with joy, my veil trailing behind me. I remember the way he smiled at me. I remember the way he held my hands, his thumb brushing over my skin as he said, "I do." For weeks after, I lived in a state of bliss, until the wedding photos arrived. The photographer, an incredible woman named Lila, had captured every detail. My mother dabbing her tears, my father's proud smile, the guests clapping as we shared our first dance. And then there was the photo, a beautiful shot taken at the reception, just after sunset. The twinkling fairy lights glowed softly in the background. My dress shimmered. Daniel was laughing beside me. But I wasn't looking at Daniel. I was looking at what was behind him. Or rather, who was behind him. There, in the blurred background, was a woman. Not just any woman. A woman Daniel had told me he barely knew. A woman who shouldn't have been at our wedding at all. Her name was Laura. And before we got married, Daniel swore she was just a friend. A distant acquaintance. Someone he hadn't spoken to in years. Yet there she was. Not just standing there, but staring. Staring at him. And her expression wasn't the polite, distant smile of a casual guest. It was something else. Something raw. Something that sent a shiver down my spine. My stomach twisted as I flipped through more photos, searching for more clues. And then I found them. Laura was in several shots. Always in the background. Always looking at Daniel. And in one particular photo, one I don't think she realized was being taken, her face told a story I wasn't supposed to know. A story of heartbreak. A story of love. A story of secrets. I spent hours staring at those photos. My mind raced with questions. My gut screamed that something wasn't right. Daniel had lied. But how big was the lie? So, I did something I had never done before. I went through his phone, and there it was. Months of messages. Conversations with Laura that had never truly ended. The distant acquaintance he had barely spoken to? She had been in his life all along. Before we got engaged. After we got engaged. Even days before the wedding. The texts weren't explicit. They weren't outright confessions of love. But they were intimate. Jokes they shared. Late-night conversations. Old memories resurfaced. A familiarity that had never left. And then, the one message that made my hands shake. A single text from Laura, sent the night before our wedding. "I can't believe you're really going through with this." And Daniel's response. "I don't have a choice." My heart shattered. Had I been a choice Daniel felt forced to make? Had I been a second option? Had I married a man who loved someone else? I confronted him that night. He denied it at first. But when I showed him the texts, when I held up the wedding photo, pointing to the woman he swore was nothing, his face went pale. And then, he did something I will never forget. He sighed. He didn't get angry. He didn't beg me to believe him. He just sighed like a man who had been caught in something he was tired of hiding. "I never wanted to hurt you," he said finally. "I did love you. He hesitated, rubbing his face. "I never really let her go." The words hit me like ice water. He had married me, but his heart had never fully been mine. For a long time, I stood there, staring at him, waiting for something, an apology that felt real, a sign of regret, anything. Instead, he just looked exhausted, as if I was the one making this difficult. "So what now?" he finally asked, his voice quiet. It was in that moment that I realized something. I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. I was angry that I had to find out the truth through a wedding photo. I was angry that he had made me believe in a future he wasn't sure about. I was angry that I had been so blind. But most of all, I was angry that he wasn't fighting for me. What now? I repeated, my voice steadier than I felt. Now, I do what you should have done a long time ago. I took off my wedding ring and placed it on the table. Then I walked away. The divorce wasn't easy, but leaving was. Because once I had seen the truth, I could never unsee it. It took time, but I healed. I found pieces of myself that had been lost in the illusion of a perfect marriage. I learned to trust my instincts again. And Daniel? Well, I heard through mutual friends that he and Laura never worked out. Maybe it was because she never truly wanted him back. Maybe it was because love built on indecision never lasts. Or maybe, just maybe, the truth had finally caught up to him, just like it had caught up to me. People say the truth has a way of coming out. Sometimes it comes out in confessions, in whispered secrets, in careless words spoken at the wrong time. But sometimes the truth is captured in a moment you weren't meant to see. And when you see it, you have two choices. Ignore it, or let it set you free. I chose freedom, and I have never looked back.